here to talk about yesterday's incredible 3-3 draw at Ibrox against Celtic. And I hardly know where to start. And I should really start by saying I'm not going to go through the game as I usually do. There was just too much happened to actually go through it, one incident after another. So I'll just give some of my general thoughts on it. It was one of these games, one of these very few games, where a neutral, if there is such a thing up here, must have loved it. It had everything you could expect, a penalty for each side, VAR decisions for each side, a couple of great goals, well, one great goal, the Celtic third one was a good goal, plenty of feisty encounters, people rolling about in agony. Well, I say people, that was Silva mainly. Incorrect refereeing decisions being corrected, the crowd going crazy and being disappointed. It had everything. And as I was there, as most of you will know if you've seen my video of the teams coming out yesterday, I was there. It's the kind of game that at the time, it's agony. It's agony and ecstasy. It's everything football, I suppose, should be. The ups and the downs, the excitement, the despair, the outrage at opposition players, or more probably the referee. So it had everything, but it was actually most of the time pretty agonising while you're there. In the end, it was a magnificent draw for Rangers to come back twice, especially the second time when you think you've got a point and you're even looking for a winner, and they run up the other end a minute later after the equaliser and go 3-2 up. You think that's it, all over. I mean, it's practically 90 minutes up, so you think it's all over. So to come back from that says a lot about the manager's influence on the players, how he's instilled a mentality into them, and how they did keep going right to the end. And in fact, right at the very end, Drossers had a shot from 20 odd yards that went a foot past the post. Now, if that had gone in, I might be tempted not to call him Drossers again, but of course it went about 2 feet past the post, probably, and the way he cut it, when he hit it, it was always sliced going away from the goal. But anyhow, what a winner that would have been. That would have been immortal, that game, if we'd managed to win that. But probably a draw was a fair result, and we came out happier getting a draw because of the circumstances, the way the game had unfolded, and because if we win our game in hand, we're 2 points clear at the top of the league, and if we win all our games, we win the league, and if we win all our games except draw at Parkhead, we win the league. And that's assuming Celtic win all their games anyhow. So it might come down to a really nervy game at Parkhead once the split takes place. But all in all, we can be more satisfied, I think, than Celtic fans, because they obviously thought they'd won it, and we managed to salvage everything and keep the status quo in terms of the league points. So in the end, pretty satisfying, but agony while we were there. When I think back on it now, the first goal, that is the freakiest Old Firm goal against Rangers I've ever seen. I've been going over 60 years now to Old Firm games, and that is the freakiest one ever seen. And partly due initially to the wind, the blustery conditions, but a big aimless punt from Hart up the middle of the park, nobody near it. The wind seemed to catch it and pull it back instead of going straight through for a by kick to us or straight through to Butland. It seemed to catch in the wind and be halted practically in its progress. And belatedly, Tavernier realised, I better do something. So he starts running after it. And little Maeda, the headless chicken, the guy who's not a football player, but he runs about a lot and he gets stuck in. He causes a lot of fouls and he gets away with most of them. I can't remember if he got booked yesterday. I think he might have, but that's all he is. He's not a football player. He at least chases the guy, and Tavernier elects to actually just boot it out of the park to the side, and it hits off Maeda, who's stretched out a leg. I don't think he even stretched out a leg, but it hit off him and fizzed into the net as if it was a George Albert's free kick. So how lucky can you get in the first minute as well? Ideal start for them. That really teed them up for what followed in the first half. but just the freakiest goal I've ever seen in such a game. And yet, all the papers, hardly any of them mentioning what a freak goal it was to get them off to the ideal start. The best you've got, oh, fortunate. But they were claiming Seamer's goal later on was fortunate because he actually shoots and it's on target and it hits a Celtic defender and gets deflected in. That's a fortunate goal. Maeda's was freaky. He didn't even pull his foot back to try and kick the ball. It just hit off him. So what a start. How jammy are Celtic when they can start an Old Firm game like that. And then, of course, they get the VAR penalty, which there was 3 or 4 Celtic players jumped up for that cross, all within about 3 feet of Goldson. Not one of them claimed a penalty. And it's like, 30 seconds later, VAR stops the game and they get a penalty. And when you see it, it hits his elbow, no doubt about that. But his arm's actually across his chest, flat across his chest. Why it's there, I don't know. But it definitely hit his elbow. And by the rules nowadays, I suppose that's a penalty, although nobody claimed for it. I don't think even Celtic fans, if it'd been at Parkhead, would have been claiming for a penalty. So anyhow, well taken by O'Reilly, very calm, cool Panenka, good penalty. We're 2-0 down, we're in real trouble, we're a shambles, our confidence is gone. We just look as if we can't put 5-6 passes together, certainly in their half. So it's been a terrible first half, absolutely shocking. Goldson should have scored with a header when it was 1-0, but they actually didn't even head it. He hit it with his shoulder and it just went a foot over the bar, but that should have been a goal. And then just before half time, I thought we might see a bit of light at the end of the tunnel because Silva was through. Hart did a good save with his legs coming out, making himself big. Bounced back to Silva, he took a touch, and then when he shot again this time, it was Cart Horse Vickers who managed to block it. So that was 2 efforts from Silva within about 10 seconds. Both, one should have gone in, and at least they would have gone in with a bit more hope at half time. But 2-0 down at half time, nobody was thinking we could retrieve the situation. Our only hope was that Big Phil could turn things around, and in fact, I was hoping he'd retrieve his mistakes from his starting lineup because I couldn't believe it when he started with Wright, Lawrence, and Drossers should never start in my opinion anyhow, but Sterling at left back instead of in midfield to take care of the midfield, which he did more and more in the second half. So to me these were mistakes that he did rectify, all of them eventually, well, all of them bar Drossers eventually, but I would have started Seamer up front through the middle right from the beginning and cause them some trouble, get a lead, and then if you had to hold on to it, not have to chase a 2-0 deficit as we did. So anyhow, second half, we came out. Within 5 minutes, we got a penalty, and it was a penalty. I was in line with that. You could see I thought he was tripped. I didn't realise the wee Ned Johnson's leg had gone up as high as his knee, but typical of Beaton, he books the guy for diving and then he has to rescind it. And in the papers this morning, I'm getting all this stuff. John Beaton had a good game. If it hadn't been for VAR, he'd have made about 3 or 4 vital mistakes. The 2 penalties for a start. So it was just a case of the VAR saving him because he's as incompetent as ever and as terrified as ever to do anything that benefits Rangers and goes against Celtic. For instance, in the first half, we got a foul. Our guy placed the ball to take the kick. Cart Horse Vickers walks over and just kicks it away. And instead of a yellow card, he only gets a telling off. So that should have been the first red card of the game. But no, just a telling off for booting the ball away when the guy's going to take a free kick. So anyhow, penalty, when you see it again, it was a penalty. Tavernier did about the only thing he did properly in the whole game by dispatching it easily. 2-1, we're in the game. We think we've equalised 2 each, and of course VAR intervenes to give Celtic a foul away back in our half after about a 20 odd second delay and about 5 players having touched the ball before Drossers bundled it into the net. That's considered okay apparently under the current rules to go away back and give something that the referee saw. He was only about 3 yards away and he didn't give a foul, and they change it, and VAR chalks off a perfectly good goal. So that was annoying, but it wasn't a sort of depressing thing from the players' point of view. They kept at it, they kept surging forward. They looked as if they thought they could get an equaliser eventually. So that was good. Good on them for keeping going. But that was so annoying that that win was actually chalked off. Then when the second goal came for us, about a minute later, they ran up. I think it was what's his name, Barnaby. He ran unopposed right into the heart of our area, not our area, just outside our area. Nice pass into Ida, and he had Suter and Sterling facing him in front of him, and neither could get a foot in. And I think he kicked it through Sterling's legs, and it went past Butland. I thought he might have saved it, but maybe the fact that it came through Sterling's legs kind of left him unsighted until the last second. So what a body blow that was, to think you've got it back to 2 each after a dreadful start, and then they go ahead again, what, a minute later? That was just a terrible, terrible feeling. But then we kept going, as I say, and what a goal. The goal of the game from Matondo, when he repeated what he'd done the week before against Hibs, when he cut in and unleashed a beautiful shot right in the far corner. The goalkeeper's no chance. So that was a worthy way to equalise again. And then we had that last, wasn't a chance, but that last shot from Drossers, which could have won the game, and we'd all still be drunk now if that had gone in. But anyhow, more general points. I can't believe now I've seen my recording of the Sky coverage, and then there's the BBC highlights of it yesterday. I can't believe just how unashamedly biased these pundits are. And obviously it's all Celtic pundits. Rangers guys try and at least stay a bit more objective. But Chris Mutton on the day for Sky Sports, and they seem to have got all the same thing together. It's as if they made a wee huddle and they said, this is the route we're going to take down. It was never a penalty. Silva had been diving all over the place, as they said. I counted 3 times where he rolled about in agony, which he shouldn't have. That was just ridiculous, rolling about as if he'd been shot. But he had been fouled 3 of the times. And in 2 of the occasions, the guy who did it got booked, the little Ned, as I say, Johnson, when he had turned, when Silva had turned and ran towards him, he just held his 2 arms out straight ahead of him and caught him with his hands either in the face or just below the chin or somewhere like that. Obvious yellow card, but it took VAR to say it wasn't a red card, but give him a yellow. Otherwise, Beaton wasn't doing anything about it. So although he was rolling about in agony, he had been fouled. Although he was rolling in agony when he'd been fouled for the penalty, it was a foul and it was a penalty. And the other one where he was rolling about in agony that I can think of, Scales actually stood on his foot just outside the box. And, the commentator, nothing in that. So the commentators really showed their true colour, especially Chris Mutton and Michael Stewart, the big numpty. I mean, he was outraged at the Silva penalty. He's saying things like, he won the ball. This is ridiculous. Look at it in real time. In other words, don't show me the slow motion or the other angles where you see Johnson's leg up over the knees of Silva, actually kicking him in the knee. You see the shuddering on the picture when you see it from a certain angle. So don't show me that. Just show me him winning the ball. No, winning the ball, he got a slight touch on it and then he brought his leg up so that he made sure he kicked and stopped Silva by catching him around the knees. So it's a definite penalty. Only people like Chris Mutton and especially Stewart are outraged that it could possibly be given. And they're tying themselves in knots as well when you listen to the commentary, because later on when our second goal was disallowed and the play was brought back to show a foul on Iwata in our half, it was exactly the same thing, only not as bad, actually. Lawrence stretched out a leg and he actually caught the guy. The guy fell forward, dived forward as Japanese people do. He fell forward and actually tried to win the foul, but the referee made play on. And when you see it again, he did catch him. He didn't catch him as much as Johnson caught Silva. But the 2 Celtic pundits, Mutton and Stewart, they're outraged. That's a foul. It's a clear foul, no doubt about it. It's a foul. But the same thing happens with Silva, and it's a dive. It's not a foul. Oh, there's no contact practically. Not enough to go down. And yet the Iwata one was a clear foul and it was the right decision. So they were tying themselves in knots, trying to justify their decisions. And even at the end, the papers are now saying that Todd Cantwell started a brawl. A brawl. It was hardly a brawl. They were all milling around. I think Cantwell actually pushed McGregor, who'd obviously started the whole thing by saying things at the end. You saw him when I watched the TV highlights later. You saw him mouthing off to Todd Cantwell, who was just sort of smiling and saying a couple of things back during the game. So presumably that continued at the final whistle, all instigated by McGregor. Why would Cantwell be bothered? We've just snatched a point. So it was Captain McGregor just obviously trying to be like Scott Brune and his Nedish behaviour that caused it all. So anyhow, the papers are spinning, oh, bad Todd Cantwell. And would you ever get Mutton in a commentary calling a Celtic player a diver and saying that he dived and that he was diving all over the place and calling him TikTok? You would never get that in a million years. So it just shows their true bias coming out. And it just shows you how hurt they were that we'd actually salvaged a point out of nothing, and a good point, keeping us ahead in the league as long as we win at Dundee on Wednesday, which I fully expect to do after a dreadful first half and an admirable, I would say, comeback in the second half. But oh, what torture it was.